Okay, and let's actually start this time a little different way. Okay. Um, Start by we're sitting comfortably, sitting up comfortably as always, and let's close our eyes. Now, if I say to you, um, left kneecap, just notice that already, in some way, your attention has gone to your left kneecap. You're not concentrating on it. You didn't have to look for it. You didn't have to try to put your attention on your left kneecap. We just say left kneecap, some attention goes there. Now, if I say right elbow, again, in a completely natural, completely effortless way, some attention goes to the right elbow. Of course, there's other stuff going on. As always, there's sounds going on in the background, including this voice. Probably thoughts, maybe feelings going on. Fine, perfect. Maybe the attention's still on the right elbow. Maybe it's drifted away. Fine. Once again, I've said right elbow. Some attention goes back there. Is it our full attention, partial attention? Doesn't matter. It's just some sense of attention there. Or if I say top of the head, in some way attention goes to the top of the head. And if I say the heart center, if I say the heart center, okay, the attention goes to the place in the center of our chest that's near the heart organ, near the blood pump. So again, oh, again, we're not trying, we're not making effort, we're not concentrating. We have this very natural idea of, oh, the heart center, and some attention goes to the heart center, this place in the center of the chest near the heart. So we can just sit like this. As always, just sitting in a completely natural way, sounds and sensations coming and going. Thoughts and feelings coming and going. Letting what comes come, letting what goes go. but with just some little sense of attention resting in the heart center. Maybe this natural sense of some attention to the heart center might seem very faint, might seem quite clear, might seem somehow deep within, maybe not, may stay the same, may change. Whatever it is right, is fine. Just some faint, easy, natural sense of having the attention centered in the heart center. This sense of the heart center might seem very small or might seem very big or something in the middle, or might not be any sense of size associated with it. Whatever it is perfect. Whatever it is, just easily resting there. Not trying to stay with the heart center, not any effort to hold on to that. But if you notice you've drifted off that sense, just just as easily as you drifted off of it, come back to it. You may feel some subtle sense of warmth associated with the heart center, or you may not. Either way, fine. Just leaving it as it is, however it is. However, it stays the same or changes. Just resting in natural open awareness as always, only with some little sense of centeredness in the heart center, which could be very faint. As always, just letting things be however they are. Just relaxing our grip and surrendering to things as they are. And just some subtle sense of surrendering from here, from the heart center. Nothing to figure out, nothing to remember, nothing to improve, just however things are, resting in that. This awareness, resting in this, just as it presents itself. And now, if whatever sense of attention to the heart center is there, if it seems to tend to melt away, fade away, don't try to keep it shaped up. Don't try to hold on to it. It's just kind of melting, diffusing into the general sky-like, space-like awareness. That's fine, however it wants to be. Just resting in the natural wide openness of awareness, this beingness, this presence. So, leaving the eyes closed, just take a couple of minutes to bring the body back to a more active state. And after a couple of minutes, when you feel ready, you can slowly open the eyes. Okay, how are people doing? Everybody good? Good. Any questions? And Yafa, when you have a sec, could you come here for a sec, please? Any questions? And in particular, I'm interested. We took a little different approach today from usual, so I'm interested in any feedback about that. Just have one of those gray pillows. Thanks.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. Thanks,
Uh-huh.
Dean.
Okay. Good.
And I have had a quick question for a
Mm-hmm.
few weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
When it's not group meditation, but when you meditate just adjacent to somebody, as you
Right.
saw, my mom and I were meditating together with your class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you sort of remain in your own zone? I'm a very sensitive person and I'm always receptive of the energy around me. I
Mm-hmm.
find it really a totally different experience to meditate like physically adjacent to other humans, especially
Mm-hmm.
ones that you're related to. Do you have any?
Yeah. Oh, that's a very interesting question. Does it? I mean, do you feel that it's problematic in some way? That there's
Not
something requiring a
really.
solution?
It just seems like a different experience. And I was
Mm-hmm.
curious if that was maybe the same. I always thought of meditation as a very lone wolf, individualistic experience, which is
Right.
probably how I think of most things. But
Right.
um, it just felt different when it was next to somebody. And
Right.
I mean, maybe it's better. I don't know.
Right. So when you say I always think of it in
Yeah.
this whatever, then whatever comes in the rest of that sentence, that's what's called a thought.
Right. Right.
Right? And that's a thought in meditation, just like any other thought. Um, like, oh, is this better? Is this worse? Is this in a to a certain degree, whatever's going on, we're meditating in our house, we're meditating sitting on the beach. That's going to be a little bit of the texture of what's happening is going to be a little bit different. Okay,
hmm
we're meditating. Maybe you're sitting on a cushion in the half lotus pose, and now you're at a workshop with somewhere where they've given you chairs and you're sitting in a chair. So there's going to be a little somewhat different texture of the experience. So there's something that's different, but there's also something that's the same.
hmm
And actually, a little kind of broader application of this. I think it's good. I mean, on the one hand, I'm always emphasizing set up a routine, could meditate at around the same time every day, so it becomes part of your routine, like brushing your teeth. Blah, you've heard this 100 times.
hmm
So that's really good, and also, I think it's good to change it up sometimes. You
Oh,
know,
that's interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
that's cool.
If you're because let's say you've got your perfect little setup.
Right, right.
What to you, what you think, right? What you
hmm
think is the perfect little. Okay, I've got my little cushion here. I've got my pictures of my teachers here. I've got my little bell here. I got my incense going. Oh, it's just perfect, and that's great. That's what, to whatever degree, you like to marshal have the tchotchkes there, have the props there, to support your practice. That's great. God bless. But it's also maybe good to be, first of all, reminded that the props are not necessary. They're
Yeah.
fun. They're extra. They're optional. And also, it's good to experience the meditation when you're in the dentist's waiting room.
Mm-hmm.
What you would think of as a very non-ideal, let's say, setting.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to experience, okay, there's a certain way that this is a little different and a certain way in which it's exactly the same. And in a way,
Right.
it's like we're scientists here. We want to isolate what's the essential element, and to isolate that essential element, we have to change the other variables, see what remains. And of course, what remains is that beingness. What remains is that, that space like free, open nature of awareness, of beingness, of presence, whatever we call it.
Mm.
Is that making sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And I
Yeah.
think it actually transfers over to the rest of life too, as someone who's like, receptive of loud noises and honking even just throughout the day
Mm-hmm.
versus just during meditation. I think it would really, just me personally, it would really benefit me to think more of this. The wave, always your wave talk is helpful. It's kind of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
being able to spread out and
Mm-hmm.
calm
Yeah. Yeah.
within a storm.
It's interesting because early in the days of our practice, in a way, it tends to be more in the early days of practice. Like what's really cool is the contrast between
Mm-hmm.
regular life, the other 23 and a half hours of the day, and then we sit to
Mm-hmm.
meditate and we go, wow, whoosh, that's really different. And that's exciting. And it's right. And that's
Yeah.
cool. That's exactly the way it should be. After a little more time, it tends to be, and all this is tendencies, but it tends to be more, oh, about how the same it is, how
Yeah.
same it is. And sometimes, actually, it's a very good point we're stumbling into here, because sometimes that can be a little point of confusion for people. Like I go, oh man, when I started doing this thing 6 months ago or a year ago, I'd sit and it would just like the contrast was so sharp, it was just like falling backwards off a cliff,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
and now, gee, it doesn't feel all that different now. What was I doing right at first that I'm doing wrong? Has the, it's like people say in relationships, the magic is gone,
Right.
right? Um, and and all it is the contrast is gone.
Mm.
It's like when you're in a
Yeah.
plane, when the plane first starts to take off, you really feel the G's. You feel yourself being pushed back into the seat. Now later on, when you're in mid-flight, you don't feel that. You don't feel yourself being pushed back into the seat, but you're actually going much faster,
Mm.
right? So that's the subtleties of this stuff are really fun, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I like
Um,
it.
oh, but specifically about meditating with other people, and in particular, other people that we feel close to, and
Mm-hmm.
perhaps people that we're even genetically close to. Like your mother, you've
Right.
got right, you got half of her DNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when years ago, and I used to go on these long retreats with Maharishi, and I'd be often with him in Spain or Italy or Switzerland or something, meditating for 3 months or 6 months, and doing lots of just hours of meditation a day, just really in the deep cooker.
Yeah.
And a couple of times I heard him say something along the lines of, trying to remember how he put it. It was something along the lines of, don't be surprised when you go home to find out that your blood relatives have been through some interesting changes, some interesting evolution in their life. He said, because he says every time we sit to meditate, we're enlivening through our attention. I mean, beingness is always beingness. It's always it. It's always the ocean is always the ocean. It's always all the waves are nothing but ocean. But bringing our clear attention to it, in a way enlivens our awareness of awareness. It enlivens our presence in the presence. And every time we do that, all other beings to some degree are faintly picking up on that. The fact
Mm.
that and human beings may be more than others because they have a similar structure. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're a musician, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like, you take a tuning fork and you strike it, and if it's tuned to A440, right? If there's other tuning forks in the room that are tuned to A440, they're going to start to vibrate with it, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or if you strike an instrument, the instruments that are other instruments will resonate to it a little bit, but another, the same instrument, if it's tuned precisely the same, is going to resonate with it more, right? That's
Hmm.
sympathetic resonance. So,
Yeah.
so all humans are going to some degree, this is fun.
It's one of the reasons why they say cannibalism is bad, because when you eat the same species, you like break out in hives, like your skin gets horrible because you're not supposed to eat like you like
Oh,
as far away from your own species the better.
now you
That's a
tell
little
me.
bit. I know. It's a little bit more on the sky burial
Yeah,
side of
right,
our craziness, but
right. um, so, okay, I won't make that mistake again.
again, yeah.
Um, um, so what Maharishi was saying is, so all beings are going to some degree resonate with this, human beings more, and human beings who are your blood relatives
Mhm.
more, even more, because they're really like the same, pretty, as close as it comes to being the same tuning fork. So it would make sense that and he was talking about, we were like in Switzerland or Italy. He's talking about our folks back home in the States, um, and he would also say, by the way, he would encourage us to try to, because we were doing this crazy thing, take half a year off from college or whatever we were, or work, whatever we were doing, and go, you know, sit with our eyes closed with some, little Indian guy wrapped in a sheet. Um, so he would emphasize that it's really good to have your parents' support of what you're doing, their emotional support, to have their, again, because of that resonance, that close connection. So yeah, so meditating in the same room, let alone across the Atlantic, meditating in the same room in proximity, you may feel something different. You may feel, because of that closer resonance, and so I would just say, okay, just know that, and know that, um, okay, life or the lords of karma or whatever have set up this situation, and so great, enjoy it. Just let its whatever principles are at work there. We don't even know what they all are, but clearly they're supposed to be at work, so let it happen.
Mm, cool.
Okay, good.
Thanks. I like it.
You bet.
Remember that cannibalism thing. You can't stop.
Oh, okay, okay. Honey, we're gonna change the menu for tonight. Get those veggie burgers out.
Yeah, good.
The back to the Beyond Burgers.
Which is Soylent Green. You know that, right? Yeah.
Oh, come on. Is ice cream still okay?
Only the vegan ones, yeah.
As long as ice cream and coffee are okay, I'm all right.
Thanks, Steve. That was helpful.
Here's looking at you, kid. Okay, what else?
Dean, I wanted to say something, if I may.
Yes, please.
Um, I just wanted to tell a short little story about that resonance between close relatives.
Mm-hmm.
One day in 2016 or so, I sat down to meditate at my usual time in the morning, and as I sat down to meditate, I suddenly just jumped out of the chair for no apparent reason
Mm-hmm.
and was out of breath and wondered what the heck had happened. Um, and I learned later that day that at that very moment, my 93-year-old father fell and broke his hip, an injury that he never did recover from.
Mm.
And, and it affected me immediately as I sat down to meditate.
Right, right,
It
right.
was very jarring.
Yeah,
Uh, like I couldn't ignore it.
yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And I think a lot of people have experiences like that, particularly, children's connection with their parents, parents' connection with their children. Actually, I had one very similar to what you're talking about. I was on a retreat in Santa Barbara, and everything was going along great, very pleasant. And then one night I went to bed and I just was just the whole night it was just this kind of turmoil and weird nightmares and so forth. And the next morning I got a call from my father that my mother had been in an accident on the San Diego freeway, what we call the 405 now. And she wound up like, losing a kneecap. And so, yeah, that happens. Years ago, I read somewhere, I don't know if this is true, but I read that Russian scientists, of course, it would be the Russians. Maybe this was just a Cold War, piece of propaganda from those days. But the story that I read somewhere was that Russian scientists had done an experiment where they had rabbits, and the mama rabbits had little baby bunnies, and they would then they'd be raised together, and then they would take the baby bunnies and take them along in a submarine and get as far away as they could. They'd go to the other side of the world, deep under the water in the submarine, and then at specific times, at irregular intervals, which they would record, they would kill the baby bunnies. Okay? And they would supposedly back there in, Vladivostok or wherever they were, Odessa, back in Russia, they would be monitoring the mother's physiological responses. And supposedly every time one of her little bunnies was murdered, her heart rate would become elevated, and so on and so forth. So whether that's an apocryphal story or a literal story, the principle's there, and we know from our own experience the principle works. So the question becomes how to use that skillfully. One way is to just know, especially in these days. I would say in these days of quarantine, where we may be physically separated from a lot of people we're close to, people that we love. Know that just because we're physically separated doesn't mean we're separated in consciousness, and we can surround them with, we're very familiar as meditators, as practitioners of natural meditation. We're very familiar with the sublime okayness of being, right? Just the infinite okayness for no reason of what we are at our own core. And we can tap into it, and more, and this now is going back actually a little to the conversation with Kristen, the idea of more and more not just thinking, oh, that's something for the time of meditation, but it's here all the time. Right now we're sitting here talking. Where are we? Where is this conversation happening? Is it happening in Massachusetts where you are? Is it happening in Santa Monica where I am? No, it's happening in beingness. It's happening in awareness. Everything is happening within in that open sky, that boundless, textureless space of space-like awareness, which is problem-free, texture-free, problem-free.
And boundary-free.
Boundary-free. No beginning, no middle, no end, no top, no bottom, no inside, no outside, no nothing. No nothing, but as Maharishi said, it's just nothing, but there's something very good about it, right? Because it's home. It's the thing we're looking for all the time. And as people who've been meditating for a while, you start getting used to the fact that you're not looking for it anymore. You're not looking for it. You're not going toward it. It's more like you're coming from it. It's not like we're trying to, how am I going to drive my car to arrive at boundless beingness? No, I'm always, I'm sitting here in the garage of boundless beingness, and kind of sort of imagining all this drama of having these conversations and, doing these things. In any case, we're familiar. The main thing here is we're familiar with a sense, some sense of this boundless beingness. It's nice to close our eyes. It's nice to sit quiet, but we don't. But we're that's what we're moving around in. We're swimming through those waters all the time. Okay. Now, the next step is to know that as people who are really, and give yourself some credit. You're more familiar with this than probably you give yourselves credit for. Right? So the next step is, okay, share this with others who maybe are in distress. And if people are in distress, it's because they're cut off from that sense. It's not absolutely because of the particular things happening to them. Oh, this one is ill. This one's in an accident. This one's in a job crisis. This one's in a relationship crisis. Yeah, all that's going on, and all that certainly can trigger or enhance the sense of separateness from boundless beingness. But ultimately, that's what it is. I mean, you can have two people who lose their job, and one is completely overwhelmed by it. The other is not, because the other's more in touch with this wholeness. For the one person, it's, the classic thing. It's like the lines carved in the rock. The other person, it's like the lines carved in the water. So what we can do is use our connectedness with our friends and particularly with our family members. We have these particularly these blood relationship with, and just have a sense of sharing that with them somehow. I don't even want to try to prescribe or describe a way to do it. It's more subtle. It's more intuitive than that, but you can, I think if you, right now, we could even do this, even close our eyes or leave our eyes open and just have a sense, think of someone, maybe someone who you feel needs help, maybe someone related to you, family relationship, maybe not. Okay, I got someone. And just just have a sense of sharing this wholeness with them. Not by thinking about it, not by trying to push something over the lines, not trying to push something through that telephone line, but just consider it already there, because they're already there within this infinite sky of awareness with us. Where else could they be? But just kind of enlivening it around them, pervading them with the awareness of this awareness, the awareness of this okayness, the awareness that no matter what's going on, they're absolutely safe. They're absolutely safe. They're absolutely okay. And now maybe someone else. Someone else who's in distress. Different situation, perhaps. Different emotions, perhaps. But it's really the same thing. It comes down to the same thing. The not being fully open, fully cognizant to the fact that they are surrounded by this perfect beingness, surrounded by, pervaded by, that they are this, just as every wave is nothing but the ocean. And just through our attention resting on them, somehow quietly facilitating their being aware of that. The absolute safety of it, the absolute okayness of it. The fact that they can just rest in that for as long as they like. They can rest in that forever. All their distress completely cleansed by that. Now let's do one more. And let's expand our attention to include everyone, our whole nation, our whole world. And you don't have to try to specifically visualize each of the 7 billion people. Of course, we can't do that, but we don't have to. We just have a sense of that crowd because they're all right here with us. They're all right here with us within this open sky of beingness. Where else could they be? And just the sense, again, it's not even sending it out. It's they're already there. Where else could they be? Just of their being aware of that perfect awareness, that perfect peace. That perfect textureless beingness that heals all distress. Just all beings, including ourselves, just marinating in it. So if your eyes have been closed, take a minute to open them. Okay, how we doing? Good. Are you, is that landing for you?
That was as good for me as the earlier meditation.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions or feedback about that or about the earlier thing, this heart center meditation? Yes,
I'd be happy
please.
to share
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
From
Anne,
Omaha.
yes.
Yep, from Omaha. Um,
Oh, hey there.
yeah, just uh, just acknowledging the reality of this practice.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was placed in a long-term care facility at the beginning of COVID, and we had very little connection, and she was really sick. And at the suggestion of a mentor, to use my meditation practice and connect to her higher self.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, yeah, it works. And,
Yeah.
that deep connection that a mother and daughter has
Yeah.
gave me relief. And it's quite powerful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, and the other beautiful thing about this is that because of the strength of that connection, uh, after people physically have passed, that connection doesn't go away. We can continue to resonate with that. You know, I mean, there are some individuals who I think are rare individuals who are so deeply connected in what we could call the heart of beingness, and so deeply, um, so alive to, so enlivened to their connectedness with other beings that, hundreds or thousands of years later, people can tune into them and get this, someone like Jesus, someone like the Buddha, right? Um, and it's funny, especially, if you've come from a background where you go, I don't know, the church stuff is not really working for me and so forth. And, this is a journey that a lot of people go through. And, and they find meditation, they go, oh, okay, here it is. Here's the direct experience. Here's that essence that like they were trying to get at, that really, if then you go back and you listen to all the hymns and you read all the Bible verses, oh, this is what it's all about. Oh, the kingdom of heaven is within you. But I wasn't getting it in church. But at a certain point, you may find, oh, you come full circle and you realize that some people, all they ever have to do, all their meditation is just, open your heart to Christ. Yeah, there it is. You know, or whoever it is, whatever, the flying spaghetti monster, or whatever, whoever happens to be your favorite avatar. Of course, where that gets a little bit, where it can get a little bit tricky, is that people who have only tuned in to the beingness through the, on a particular channel, like if you've only tuned in through the Jesus channel, or only tuned in through the whatever, maybe you say, oh, I really feel that infinite okayness and the relaxation and the joy and all that when I play golf, right? So you're getting it, you're finding it through the golf channel. Okay, great. But if you've only found it through the Jesus channel, the golf channel, whatever it is, there's a tendency to identify it with Jesus specifically, or with golf specifically. Okay, can you hear what I'm saying? Is this making sense? So that, I mean, in the case of something like golf, the problem becomes when you start getting arthritis in your hands and you can't play golf anymore, or it's a rainy day, so you can't go out and play golf today. I feel, oh gee, so my access to that joy, that expansiveness is now denied to me. That's very sad, especially if it's arthritis and you can't play at all. All you can do is go to the 19th hole and drink. Right? In the case of people who identify identify it with Jesus or any other particular religious channel, then we can get into all kinds of misunderstandings. Oh, that comes from Zoroaster, or from Lao Tzu, or whoever, or from the Baal Shem Tov, whoever I'm tuning into. It is them and it's not the others. Right? And that's when we get into religious exclusivity, which can become bigotry, which can become religious wars, yada yada yada. So I think it would not be right to say, oh gee, we didn't have to go through this whole thing and go find meditation. I could have just stayed in the church pew and opened myself to Jesus. Yeah, you can. That'll work, or whatever it is. But there is a real value, I think, in finding it. It's not finding it in meditation, because what is meditation? Meditation's nothing, right? Gompa Ma Yin. Some of you have heard that before, that Tibetan saying, Gompa Ma Yin. Meditation is not. When we really get into the meditation practice, we see it's nothing. It's just being. So we're getting there without content. We're just getting the being. We're getting it straight. Right? It's like okay, we're getting the beingness straight up. When you're getting it in the context of the sport or the religion or the hearing, Beethoven, or hearing Van Halen or whatever it is, yeah, you're still getting the shot, but now it's a mixed drink. All right. Okay. What else? Yes, Marie, please. Unmute yourself.
Thank you for the meditation and for the talk today. Because usually I often have an aha moment after these sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So today I was just thinking, I have one of my children, a son who I'm so connected with him that I suffer from it.
I'm sorry, that you're so connected that you
suffer from the connected, because the kids, adult kids, go through different events and so on, and I'm so sensitive to where he is that I feel it. Not speaking to him, not reading anything from him, I just know it.
Right.
So this is like interesting, opening for me. And also, as Peter said, I had the same thing when my 93-year-old dad passed, and I was in the same country with him, just waiting to see him 3 days later.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at some kind of a treatment, and I knew it. 3 o'clock, and I knew what happened without any,
Right.
So we are all connected, and this was a really nice, and also the last conversation very valuable also.
Mm-hmm.
Different avenues, and it's not about that, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Right, you bet. I would say about the what you're saying about your son, I think that maybe this kind of practice like we just did might be particularly good for you to do in that kind of situation, to sort of flush out the lines, so to speak, so that the connectedness is there. You can't do anything about that. That's and that's not a bad thing, of course. Um, but to really kind of flood that zone with the all goodness, the infinite okayness of beingness, so that the sense of connection is not dominated by, you may still have the sensitivity, the mother's sensitivity to pick up on, or when he's distressed, when he's this, when he's that, these waves of distress. But if you're bringing in the ocean of beingness,
Mhm.
that's much bigger than any wave. And so that puts the waves in more context, so that you don't have to suffer from it.
He's just the most wonderful, child. I mean, he's just wonderful. He's just so super sensitive to
Yeah.
everything. I think it should be his practice actually, but
Right.
hoping for that.
Right. And of course, as parents, we're all very familiar with the sense of, my kid should do this or that.
I
And
wish.
right. And of course, we don't get a vote. We don't get a
Because he's opening up, but with small children and too much work, I don't have high hopes that it's going to happen anytime,
Right.
not tomorrow, maybe in a year's time, or little seeds. Your books have been passed on, so
Oh, good.
so
Mm-hmm.
so we'll see.
Yep.
It would help him a lot.
Yep. 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 And again, the fact that we're meditating, we have that connection through our DNA, and maybe juicing it along further with this kind of practice that we did a few minutes ago will help soften things up for him.
Right.
And he might become more receptive to these insights, these practices, or maybe not. And maybe without even him specifically practicing from his side, it's like, I heard a story once about someone meeting the Dalai Lama, and saying, "Oh, Your Holiness, this."
3 times, Dean.
Say it
I
again.
Dalai Lama 3 times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm lucky enough to have shaken a hand with him.
yeah, yeah. So there's someone who is, and exactly that's what you feel in the presence of someone like the Dalai Lama is exactly what we're talking about, and exactly what we're practicing here. So the story that I heard was someone met the Dalai Lama the way that you did, shook his hand, and said, "Oh, this Dharma practice has done so much for me. It's really transformed my life, but I really want my husband to do it. I don't know how I can bring my husband to do it." And the Dalai Lama said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "One per family is plenty." Okay. And I think that's really nice to know, because it takes the pressure off of us.
Right.
It's like you only need one designated driver. Right? And then if others happen to come along, that's gravy. But also we know that if in doubt, in terms of how much to say and when to say it, if in doubt, leave it out.
Okay.
Right? Because we can always say more later, but we can never say less. Right? We can never put the toothpaste back in the tube. And I'm speaking from experience in my early days of practice, having turned off a lot of people with my enthusiasm, my zealotry.
It's
Okay.
a very solid advice, actually.
Yeah. I mean, could anyone, before you were ready to come to Dharma practice, could anyone have talked you into it? Right? No. But no one can talk you into it before you're ready, and you can't talk anyone else into it. Right? But, and the main thing that we can do is to encourage others, if we're interested in others. First, just let go of that thought. Just even let go of that thought. And then just keep coming back to our own practice. And the stronger our own practice is, the more we become like a little lighthouse that other people pick up on. They may not know what it is. They may, maybe the people you work with or something who have no idea you're practicing meditation, but they're picking up something. and there might be a conversation next week or 6 years from now where they say, gee, Marie, how come when these crises happen and everyone else gets, crazy, there just seems to be such a calmness to you, such a centeredness to you? What is it? What's your secret? What's the secret sauce here? And then you can say, well, and there may never be such a conversation, and that's fine too.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay. So, time for mantra. So if you were with us last week, we did the mantra of healing. I want to do that again. It's so perfectly appropriate to everything we've been doing this session. So the mantra is simple. It's 2 words, Hari Om. Hari Om. Let me make sure everyone's muted. So you can feel free to sing without us getting into Zoom chaos. And if you just want to let it wash over you, let it wash over you. And have the idea, Hari Om, so now it's exactly the same as what we've been doing, but from a little different angle, using a little different technology, using sound vibration technology. So we can just have the sense of this, feeling this sound going through your system, healing anything that needs to be healed, whether it's physical ailment, whether it's, emotional distress, neurological upset, whether it's, whatever kind of broken heart is healing for us, whatever could be there. Just letting the idea that this sound and what this sound embodies, that this sound is like a vibrational embodiment of that perfect beingness. So just letting it heal you, and maybe a sense of letting it heal others through you, specific people or all beings, whatever, however it feels good. Hari Om. 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 Hari Okay. May all beings swiftly realize that perfect beingness which they were all along. And thus may all suffering, all conflict spontaneously evaporate. May all beings be happy. May peace prevail everywhere. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you, Dean.
Wonderful evening.
Keep in touch. We've given new meaning tonight to the words keep in touch. Keep in touch with all our beloved beings and enjoy being.